Hey there, welcome back to What's Your Take? I'm Wyatt Spalding, and this is another week of What's Your Take on college football. So let's get started. So the game of the week was Notre Dame versus Wisconsin. Big game, and it was a hard hitting game. Really good defensive game. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, it was boring because it was low scoring. It was like 3-3 forever, and 10-3 or 10-10 for quite a while, first three quarters. And but it was just a really hard hitting game. If you love football and know football, you appreciate the good defense that was played in this game. Notre Dame ran the ball 32 times and like gained 3 yards. That's how good the Wisconsin defense was. And the final score was Notre Dame 41, Wisconsin 13. So that actually says a lot about the Notre Dame defense. They were able to contain the Wisconsin offense for the whole game, where Wisconsin played really good defense until the fourth quarter. Notre Dame outscored Wisconsin 31-10 in the second half. Although Notre Dame points in the second half came in the fourth quarter. They scored 31 points in the fourth quarter. That's crazy. Jack Cohn, who was the quarterback for Wisconsin, but then left to come to Notre Dame. He went 15 for 29, 158 yards, and 1 touchdown. Had to leave the game. I think it was around the third quarter because he hurt his ankle. So then Drew Pine came in, and this kid looked not phased at all. No, not even nervous. He threw six. He went 6 for 8 for 81 yards and a touchdown. Real calm, cool, and collected going in there as the backup. The things that really put the game away was linebacker Cam Hart had on defense had a pick six, intercepted the ball, and returned it for 34 yards for a touchdown. Then Drew White on the Notre Dame defense intercepted a pass and ran it back all the way for another pick six. So the Notre Dame defense really showing up, putting this game away. I'd probably give the game ball to the Notre Dame defense just because they were able to dominate Wisconsin in the fourth quarter when it really mattered. And Wisconsin, give their defense credit too. They're always known for good defense, but they couldn't do it in the fourth. They could not stop Notre Dame at all in the fourth. It looked like a completely different defense from what it was the first three quarters. So, but all in all, really good game. Really hard hitting, smash mouth defensive football for most of the game until, like I said, the fourth quarter where Notre Dame scored 31 points in the fourth quarter. Arkansas, Texas A&M. Arkansas is on a roll right now, people. Before the season began, you would thought it was the other way around, where Texas A&M, they're gonna challenge Alabama, and their recruiting classes are so good, and they're the ones struggling right now in Arkansas, where their program has been down in the tank for the last couple years. They are starting to roll now. KJ Jefferson went 7 for 15 through 212 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He did get hurt. I think he hurt his ankle, but Hornsby came in, only went like 1 for 3, and around this time you could see Texas A&M was starting to get some life, starting to come back. But again, Arkansas did what they do best, which is the run game. Trelon Smith had 17 carries for 82 yards, doing his thing on the ground, just pounding the ball. And Arkansas was able to get out with the win. Traylon Burks, receiver for Arkansas, had 6 receiving yards, 167 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. him and Jefferson hooked up for an 85-yard touchdown in the first half. That was a great throw and catch. So that was a huge play, especially in the first half. And good win for Arkansas. We'll see what they can do throughout the SEC. Will they be at the top? I mean, they're really rolling right now. And Texas A&M, they got some struggles. Zach Calzada, Zach Calzada, quarterback for Texas A&M, went 20 for 56, 236 yards, no touchdowns, had one interception. So, again, he put up the yards, but he couldn't score in the air. They did, however, get a touchdown on the ground. Isaiah Spiller had 12 carries for 195 yards and a touchdown. The only touchdown of the day. So, Texas A&M, their offense is struggling, and they need to figure it out. Arkansas had a total of 246 yards passing and 197 yards rushing, and A&M only had 151 yards passing and 121 yards rushing. So that proves it, because the stats say so, that Arkansas has their offense is more explosive right now than Texas A&M, and can Arkansas keep it rolling? And can Texas A&M figure it out? We'll have to see. All right, another game. Michigan beats Rutgers 20-13. This game was pretty good. It looked like it was going to be a blowout, honestly, because Michigan was up like 20-3 at halftime. Noah Vedral for Rutgers, quarterback for Rutgers, went 18 for 31, 156 yards, and a touchdown. The running back, Pacino for Rutgers, had 20 carries for 107 yards. I mean, he was their offense, even though, Vedral threw for 156 yards. Pacino was really gaining ground, and they were just pounding the ball against Michigan, especially in the second half. Cade McNair, the quarterback for Michigan, Cade McNam, Cade McNam threw 19 for 16, 68 yards, but no touchdowns. QB for Michigan. And Haskins, the running back for Michigan, did have 2 touchdowns on 12 carries. So that's how they got their scores. Michigan was up 20-3, like I said, and Rutgers outscored them 10-0 in the second half. Rutgers had a chance to go down and tie the game several times, and they just couldn't do it. At the end of the game, Vedral fumbled the ball, and Michigan got it, and then Michigan won. But all in all, a very good game. Not as good as last year's game, because it went into like triple overtime last year. So that was, I think, one of the best games of the year last year. But again, another well-fought game out by Michigan and Rutgers. If you look at the teams, Rutgers, they're right there, but they just can't finish, like Nebraska. But I'll get into that in a different show later. But Rutgers is right there, and they're not like your walkover. We know we're going to beat them for sure. No, they're a good team this year, and they compete in the Big Ten. They just got to finish at the end of games when it matters. And then Michigan, what team is this going to be this year for Michigan? Is it going to be like the team in the first half where they dominated Rutgers? Or is it going to be like the team in the second half where they have a lead and they almost blew it and they really couldn't move the ball that much in the second half? So overall team stats, Rutgers had 352 total yards of offense to Michigan's, why won't this work? To Michigan's, why won't this work? Come on. There we go. Rutgers had 352 yards of offense, and Michigan only had 275 yards of offense. So that tells you right there that stats say, even though Rutgers probably, if they would have got a score here and there, they could have won, but they outgained Michigan and still lost. And Michigan, I know you won, but still that's a problem. You got outgained, you squeaked by, but how are you going to do against like Ohio State or Penn State when you face them? Got to figure it out. All right, the other game, Texas beats Texas Tech 70-35. Does Texas Tech know how to play defense? I don't think so. Every year, their defense sucks, and their offense is fun to watch. And that's why sometimes I tune in to Texas Tech games, because their offense is fun to watch, but their defense can't stop anybody. I mean, Texas scored 70 points on them. Texas had a total of 639 yards of total offense to Texas Tech's 520 yards. So not a great defensive game for Texas either. I mean, one team gives up over 600 and the other team gives up over 500 yards total. Texas had 336 yards rushing. Texas Tech only had 128 yards rushing. Passing, Tech had 392. Texas had 303. So during the game, Tyler Soft, he was 9 for 11 for 68 yards and 1 interception. But he was doing pretty good. Like when they played Houston, he looked good. But then he threw an interception and they took him out. And Henry Colombi came in for 17 and threw 17 for 23 for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was the backup last year. Their starter got hurt. Can't remember his name, but he got hurt last year, and then Colombi had to come in and take over for the season. So he does have more experience than Tyler Stott has, but we'll have to see what their quarterback competition is, or who's going to start next week. Texas, in the meantime, I think found their quarterback. This game, they stuck with Casey Thompson, who threw 18 for 23, 303 yards, and 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. So, either the Texas offense is really good, or Texas Tech defense is really bad. I'm going to go with the Texas Tech defense is really bad. So, alright, the biggest upset of the weekend. NC State beats Clemson. I think I watched the fourth quarter of this game. I think they said during the game that NC State hadn't beaten a top 10 team since 2012. Went into double overtime, which even made it better. NC State, for Clemson, DJ Ungoleu went 12 for 26, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He only averaged 4 yards in every pass. Played okay, but not great. DJ was picked as one of the Heisman candidates maybe this year, and I mean he's not looking bad, but it's kind of the team too. They just don't look as dominant as they did. I don't know. I mean they're not gonna make the playoffs now. Lost to Georgia which is a respectable loss, but you can't lose to NC State in the ACC because the ACC is weak. Out of the Power 5 conferences, I think the ACC is 5th. People thought it was the Pac-12 for a while, but the Pac-12 is better than the ACC right now. Let's face it, the ACC is a basketball conference, not a football conference, when you think of the ACC. So, on the other hand, NC State's quarterback, Devin Leary, threw for 238 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Emeka MZ had 14 receiving yards for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. That was led him in receiving. Linebacker Isaiah Moore led the defense with 8 tackles, 3 of them solo. So all in all, good game for NC State. Great win for the program. Let's see if they can capitalize on on it the next game and down the road in the season. Clemson, do you fold in the towel or say, hey, I know we're not going to make the playoffs, but we could still make a New Year's Six bowl game if we run the table here, make the conference championship. But we'll have to see. As a team that's always been in the playoffs throughout the last several years, since like 2016 or 15, something like that, now is definitely not going to make the playoffs because they have 2 losses. So, we'll see what Dabo does with the team and how he can bring this team to keep competing throughout the season. Oklahoma, West Virginia. This game was way low scoring than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a high scoring game, but it wasn't. Fans were booing Spencer Rattler, which he didn't play that bad. He went 26 for 36, 256 yards and a touchdown, 1 interception. Both teams scored a touchdown in the first quarter, but then the rest were field goals. Oklahoma, I saw the stat on Instagram, I think it was Fox had it, and Oklahoma never had the lead. It said how many seconds did Oklahoma lead for the game, and it said 0 seconds. And they only led when they kicked the winning field goal, which was crazy because I thought Oklahoma would score a bunch of points like they always do. And West Virginia, they're known for offense also, but really low scoring, and their defenses showed up, or their offenses are just that bad, I guess. So that is the week of college football. So we tune in for next week of college football. We got some good games coming up. Let's see, the best games coming up next week are, let's see. We got, if you're a Big Ten fan, Iowa plays Maryland on Friday night. But the biggest games are Georgia versus Arkansas next week. Tune in for that game. That should be a really good game. Michigan, Wisconsin could be a good game. Defensive game, I would think. Don't be surprised if that game's low scoring. The game of the week is Alabama Ole Miss. That will be one heck of a game. Hopefully, Ole Miss can stick with Alabama, and Alabama just doesn't blow them out. And then Baylor plays Oklahoma State. Those teams are ranked. And Auburn plays LSU. And another good game to watch is Arizona State versus UCLA. So those are just some of the games for next week. So get excited. College football's here. And the great thing about this year is, besides Alabama and Georgia, you don't know who's going to make the playoffs because everyone can lose, even Alabama and Georgia, but they look way more dominant than everybody else. So, alright, so that's this week on What's Your Take? Thanks for watching.